Do you want to sound more natural and fluent in your IELTS speaking test? Well, here's a secret. Idioms can instantly boost your band score if you use them correctly. In this lesson, I'll share 20 common English idioms that impress IELTS examiners and make your answers sound confident, expressive, and Band 8+ ready. Stay till the end, because I'll show you how to use idioms naturally, not like a robotan. I'll give you a practice tip that 9 out of 10 students don't know. Let's jump right in. So, why do idioms even matter? Idioms are short expressions that carry a meaning beyond their literal words. For example, if I say, "It's raining cats and dogs," you know I just mean it's raining heavily. In the IELTS speaking test, using idioms helps you sound more like a native speaker and less like you've memorized your answers. The key is to use them naturally and in the right context, not to force them into every single sentence. It's all about showing the examiner you have a flexible and rich vocabulary. Let's start with some great idioms to express emotions. These are perfect for Part 1 and Part 2 questions. First up, over the moon. This means you're very, very happy. For example, I was over the moon when I got my IELTS results. Similarly, you can say on cloud 9, which also means extremely happy. You could say, she was on cloud 9 after her graduation. Now for the opposite feelings. If you're feeling sad, you can say you're feeling blue. For instance, I was feeling blue because I missed my family. On the other hand, if you're feeling cheerful and full of energy, you're in high spirits. A great example is, everyone was in high spirits during the festival. And if you're really unhappy, you can say you're down in the dumps. For example, I felt down in the dumps after failing my driving test. These are perfect when the examiner asks, how do you feel about, or describe a time when you felt happy? Now, let us talk about idioms that fit perfectly in Part 2 and Part 3, answers about work or education. First, burning the midnight oil. This means you're studying or working late into the night. For example, I had to burn the midnight oil before my final exams. Next, hit the books, which means to start studying seriously. You could say, I need to hit the books if I want to pass with flying colors. Be careful not to cut corners. This means doing something cheaply or quickly, but not very well. For example, some companies cut corners to save time, which reduces quality. When you start a new job, you need to learn the ropes, which means learning how to do it properly. For instance, it took me a few weeks to learn the ropes at my new job. Finally, when you're done for the day, you can call it a day. Like after studying for hours, I decided to call it a day. These idioms show you can talk about professional and academic life naturally. Okay, let's look at some idioms that will make your everyday conversation lively and realistic. A classic one is a piece of cake, which means something is very easy. You might say, the IELTS listening test was a piece of cake for me. If you do something very rarely, you do it once in a blue moon. For example, I go to the cinema once in a blue moon. To start a conversation with new people, you need to break the ice. For instance, I usually tell a joke to break the ice with new people. Here's a useful one for discussions. The ball is in your court. This means it's now your decision or responsibility. You could say, I've done my part. Now the ball is in your court. And when someone says something that is exactly right, you can say they hit the nail on the head. For example, you hit the nail on the head when you said time management is key. These are great for describing habits or giving opinions. Next up, idioms for talking about challenges and success. These show confidence and determination, which is great for higher bands. If you have to face a difficult situation bravely, you bite the bullet. For example, I had to bite the bullet and retake my IELTS exam. If you have to start all over again, you're back to square one. For instance, when my essay was deleted, I was back to square one. To really impress someone, you can go the extra mile, which means doing more than is expected. To impress the examiner, I always go the extra mile in my answers. But if you feel like giving up, the idiom is throw in the towel. You might say, I wanted to throw in the towel, but I kept going. And finally, a blessing in disguise is something that seems bad at first, but turns out to be good. For example, losing that job was a blessing in disguise that pushed me to study abroad. Now that you know these fantastic idioms, here's the most important part: how to use them naturally. My secret tip is to choose just 4 or 5 idioms that you really like and feel comfortable with. Don't try to memorize all 20. Practice using them in your daily conversations, maybe with a friend or even just talking to yourself. Personalize them. Instead of a robotic, I'm very happy, make it your own. I was honestly over the moon when I finally passed my IELTS. See, it sounds fluent, confident, and completely authentic. If you found these idioms helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more IELTS speaking lessons. And let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite idiom from this list? Remember, the more you practice, the more naturally these idioms will come to you in the test. Good luck, future Band 9 speaker. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you in the next video.